Okay. Well, I would like to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Zuma Maia from Canoas, Brazil. He's a neurologist and he belongs to FINO. Francisco, welcome.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizer for the invitation. I'm very proud to be here. So, especially, this is the great opportunity to talk about lateral canal, BPPV. I'm going to do my experience, how to deal with that. Well, everybody knows that BPPV is a biomechanical disorder. And you can see here that through the eye movement, we can see what's going on with these particles are moving, are floating, or attached to the cupula. Well, I would like to pay your attention, because it's absolutely necessary. The bottom line is to know about anatomy and physiology. That's interesting. Knowledge of the anatomy and pathophysiological mechanism of the semicircular canal is essential for the correct diagnosis and treatment of any BPPV. And above all, patients, be patient face this kind of patients. Everybody knows that whenever the right lateral canal is stimulated, for example, we have the eye movement fall on the contrary. This, which means the slow phase. But as you can see, is the return to the primary position of the eyes with the fast phase. That's done with the direction of the nystagmus. Another important reminder is the Ewald law. Whenever we have a flow goes to lateral canal to the cupula, we have an excitatory nystagmus intensity. And on the contrary, inhibitory canal, which means less intense nystagmus. That's very important. Another thing is very important is the initial position and the provocative position. As you can see here, if I turn the head for one side, I have one kind of nystagmus on flow of the endolymph, and another side, another direction of the nystagmus, the provoked nystagmus. Why is that? Because you are under gravitational force. Okay, that is very important. What is the goal of this presentation? So, the goal is to diagnose lateral canal, BPPV. The second, management of apogeotropic lateral canal, BPPV. And the last one, the management of geotropic variant. Let's see the diagnosis of lateral canal, BPPV. The challenge is always to discover where are the particles. It is in the left side or in the right side. We are in front of a geotropic variant or apogeotropic variant. Geotropic variant, lateral BPPV, the particles are in the posterior arm. And the apogeotropic lateral canal BPPV, the particles can be floating on the anterior arm, attached to the cupula, canal side, or attached to the cupula utricular side. The diagnosis of this side effects is crucial. It's critical for successful treatment. I do believe in that. So that's why I perform adopt the strategy of minimum stimulus for diagnosis of PPPV, as well said my professor Asprella Libonat. I'm going to repeat, sorry, but I think it's very important, this kind of strategy. I have some about 10 years of experience about that. Another thing is very important is eliminating the visual fixation. You can use a video frame, a lot of this kind of device. To me, is important to do that. I'm going to repeat, as I said, sorry, Libonati, but this step of strategy of the stimulus minimus. The first step is to looking for the pseudo-spontaneous nystagmus. The second step is to perform the bow and lean test, or as well said, head pitch test. And the third, the sit supine position. And finally, the supine roll test. Let's see one by one. The pseudo-spontaneous nystagmus, remember that the lateral canal is inclined at a 3rd degree and they are subject by gravity. In case of geotropic variant, the particles are in the posterior arm, the stimulus will be inhibitory. And the apogeotropic variant, the stimulus will be excitatory stimulus. This is the right semicircular canal, okay? The bow lean test. When I perform the bow, the head up, down, in cases of geotropic nystagmus, the stimulus will be excitatory. In the cases of apogeotropic, inhibitory. In the lean test, in case of apogeotropic, will be excitatory, and geotropic will be inhibitory. That paper, I think it's very interesting, was written by Marcelli. And he talks about the intensity of the nystagmus and then direction. I'm going to summarize this paper because this is a very interesting paper. When I perform the bow test, if I have a strong nystagmus, probably the particles are in the posterior arm, which means geotropic, and the direction of the nystagmus is showing the affect side. On the contrary, on the lean test, if I have a strong nystagmus, the particles are an anterior arm or attached to the cupula, we call apogeotropic, and the direction of the nystagmus will be the affected side. Interesting is this paper. The other test is the sit supine position. Look at this. The patient start with sitting patient and lay down the patients. In case of apogeotropic, will be excitatory nystagmus. In case of geotropic, the particles in posterior arm, it is inhibitory. Let's see the sit supine position test. Right lateral canal, BPPV. Geotropic. When I lay down, turn the head to the right side, for example, this is a right lateral canal, the stimulus will be excitatory. So I have an stimulus beat to the ground. In cases, when I turn the head to the left side, the stimulus will be inhibitory. You have a geotropic stimulus beating to the ground, less intensive. In cases of the apogeotropic variant, when I turn the head for the left side, the stimulus will be excitatory, and I have understandable beating to the ceiling. When I turn the head to the right side, the affected side, I will have an inhibitory stimulus and then the nystagmus as well beating to the ceiling. This is interesting because I came up with this idea when we compare, for example, the ball test and the red right row test. It is pretty much the same. Why? Because the lateral canal is in the vertical position, and the two positions, those tests, the lateral canal is in the vertical position. That's why you have the same kind of nystagmus. How to treat lateral canal semicircular BPPV? Well, I'd like to remind you that there is no single correct maneuver from my experience for each kind of BPPV, since several authors have reported good results with different types of reposition maneuver. Personal experience, I repeat, personal experience is really important for defining a strategy to manage these kind of patients. Okay, let's see the maneuver. To me, the main rule for all maneuver is to perform from the affect side to unaffected side. If you see the apple maneuver, the barbecue is always like that. Another thing important to me are two concepts to think about when you are performing maneuver: the planes and the force. What kind of force you perform? The gravity of the angular acceleration and the inertia. Let's see how can we manage the apogeotropic lateral canal BPPV. I remind you that the particles can be an anterior arm attached to the cupola canal side, and attached to the utricular side. The goal goes to the particles to utricle, like that. That's the goal of that's maneuver. Let's see the first maneuver. The modified Guffoni maneuver is interesting. It starts the patients at the affected side doing the brisk deceleration and inertia. And after some minutes, turn the head up, nose up with rapid angular acceleration. This is an interesting maneuver. They use inertia and gravity. And it is important because you can transform apogeotropic and geotropic variant. So you need another maneuver, okay? The head shaking maneuver. They use acceleration and deceleration in order to break autoconic debris detached from the cupola. And you need another maneuver to solve the problem. This is an interesting paper written by King in 2012, the cupulolotized reposition maneuver. They start the patient in the supine position. After that, the second step, they turn the patient to the affected side, 135 degrees. So return 45 degrees to unaffected side. The third position, the supine position, 90 degree. Fourth position, here, and fourth position. And here, and the first position, they use the vibration in order to detach some particles attached to the cupola. And finally, the fifth position, the prone position. That's an interesting maneuver. They use mastoid oscillation and gravity, and cupulolotized utricular side can be solved, according to this author. 2016, we published this Zuma maneuver. Why? With the aid of this Professor Herbert from Utah. He had so much because he performed in his biomechanical model, 3D model, how does it work? And it was the great contribution. We published this in audiology research. Okay, let's see step by step of Zuma maneuver. We start with the patient sitting to affect side, and we do the brisk deceleration in order to detach the autoconic, like Guffoni maneuver. Okay, we wait 3 minutes in each step. Okay, the second step is to turn it upright toward 90 degrees with rapid angular acceleration and gravity plus inertia. Here we transform the apogeotropic in geotropic variant. The third step is to turn to unaffected side more 90 degrees. Okay, this for posterior arm and the utriculocupulolateralis utricular side solved. And finally, this is the great contribution from Rabbit to move the head, slide forward, head tilt, slide forward, in order to avoid autoconica back to the canal and return to the upright position. Okay, we use inertia and gravity, and we solve as well cupulolateralis utricular side. This is a courtesy of my peer, Renato Cal. He sent this video to me with the anterior lateral canal BPPV apogeotropic. Let's see. They are performing the head pitch, as Professor Aspella said. No pseudonystamic spontaneous. Now the bowling, the bow test, as you can see, nystagm less intensity to beating to the left side. Okay. Now he's going to perform the lean test. Okay. And as you can see here, the directed nystagm changing, beating to more intensity to the right side. So according to Marcelli, this is the apogeotropic on the right side. So we perform now sit supine position, left beating. Now turn the head to the left. As you can see, a strong nystagm beating to the right side. Excitatory stimulus. When he perform, move the head to the right side, then nystagm will be less intensive and apogeotropic, beating to the left. So the diagnosis is right apogeotropic lateral canal BPPV. Okay. Now he's going to perform the Zuma maneuver. Lay down the patient to affect the side for the first step, brisk deceleration. We're going to have a left beating nystagm, a apogeotropic beating to the ceiling. Okay. Now waiting until the nystagm disappear, no more than 3 minutes. Turn the head 90 degrees. This is different, 90 degrees. So the same nystagmus, the same direction nystagmus must be done. It's very interesting. Beating to the left and more 90 degrees to the unaffected side, the same direction of the nystagm. So, sit the patient, head down, head down, tilt the heads down, slide forward. When disappear the nystagmus, okay, the patient is sit with the head down. This is important, very important. Now, the day after, every test, the patient was asymptomatic and he's performing the roll test, sit supine, no nystagmus, and turn the head to the left side, no nystagmus as well. And to the right side, no nystagmus. He solved the problem. So now the management of geotropic lateral canal BPPV. As I said, the particles are in the posterior arm, and the goal is to move the particles go to utricle. Okay, the first maneuver that's worked very well is the lamp or barbecue maneuver. We start the patient at the sit supine position and turn the head 90 degrees to unaffected side. Start the prone position and sit the patients. They use inertia and gravity. Obesity, advanced age, and restrictive cervical movement must be think about that. That's the side effect. First, prolonged position, another maneuver. Gravity, they use gravity, but pay attention with advanced age, musculoskeletal or cardiological disease in this kind of patients. Be 8 or 10 hours in the semi-position is a little bit of danger. It's very work maneuver. Guffoni maneuver. We start the patients with the sit in upright position, sit the patients to unaffected side, even the brisk deceleration, use inertia as well. And after that, the second step is a rapid angular acceleration, head down is the difference for apogeotropic. Okay, they use inertia and gravity. So a lot of peers of mine told me, I perform a Zuma maneuver no matter what the variant. Apogeotropic or geotropic, I do the same. Well, last year, we published this paper. We studied how can I do to use the same maneuver for geotropic. We just modified the first position. While the patient is seated, we turned his head left, for the case of right lateral canal BPPV, to the left side 45 degrees, and we perform the same step of the apogeotropic Zuma maneuver. Use the same inertia and gravity. This is the video with the model, my model. The particles are in the posterior arm, okay? We start the patient, turn the head 45 degrees to an affected side, lay down the patient, the particles go into direction of the utricle, 45 degrees, and more 90 degrees, and the particles go to utricle. And the same position of the head when we up in the upright position. So, in order to summarize, how do we do with lateral canal BPPV? First and foremost, the correct diagnosis and eliminating the visual fixation. That's, to me, is very important. The second, knowledge of anatomy and pathophysiology, Ewald, Laura, and Florence. The third, the single application. And the last one, the semi-maneuver for the both variants. So on the basis of our experience, we perform Zuma maneuver in case of apogeotropic and the Zuma modify maneuver in case of lateral canal BPPV geotropic. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Okay. Asif?
Okay.
Let me check, there are some questions.
Okay.
This is a question from Manuel Gallardo from Peru.
Peru.
When do you think that the apogeotropic nystagmus has central origin? Good question.
That's a good question. First and foremost, the latency of the nystagmus is short. Okay, there is no latency when you are performing. And before I perform the strategy of mimulus-stimulus, I do the bedside examination, oculomotor as well, touch as Daniel Gold. So this is very important. And this that Daniel Gold tell us, the prone position, now I'm put the patients in this case and the put position. You see, if I have as a downbeat nystagmus, it's always central region.
Okay. Well, Asif, are you there? Well, perhaps we can have some question at the end of the session. I would like to introduce our partner,